The fitting room was warm with steam from pressing coats below. A row of pins in a velvet roll, 2 hats set by the door. You said, "Stand easy, if you please," and drew the curtain wide, then circled once with that narrow tape and let it fall aside. The treadle slowed, the hall clock spoke, a buyer laughed downstairs. You brushed one thread from off my sleeve as though no one was there. When you took my measure, you did not speak of grace. You only marked the shoulder seam and looked up at my face. When you took my measure in that small upstairs room, the very air seemed cut to fit and leave the heart more room. Your chalk had paled your second finger, your cuffs were turned with care. You held the bodice to the light to find what pulled it there. Outside, the avenue changed its shift, the trolley bells came thin, and dusk laid one long panel down across your cheek and chin. You asked me not to hold my breath, not once to stand too grand, then fixed the hem with 3 small pins and steadied it by hand. When you took my measure, you never named a thing, only moved the mirror half an inch and straightened out the spring. When you took my measure with your pencil by your ear, I felt how kindly one might be without a word made dear. Years will alter cloth and fashion, raise and lower every line, take the little waist from one age and give the next new signs. But some hands learn a person truly by what they do not press, by leaving ease where ease is due and shaping nothing less. When you took my measure, the daylight nearly done, you left a basting thread of gold where 2 plain pieces joined. When you took my measure, I think I understood how rare it is to be made room for and quietly sit good. The bathhouse clock was losing heat, the lockers clanged below, and towels along the wooden rail grew darker in a row. You stood above the guarded sand with zinc along your cheek, a whistle resting at your throat, your shoes kicked from your feet. The children dug their castles low, the mothers shook out sheets. A radio near the soda stand kept time in little beats. One boy in trunks of faded green went farther than he knew, past where the ropes drew silver lines. Across the afternoon you saw the shoulder of the tide before the rest could see, and raised one arm into the sun, as calm as it could be. No red flag yet, no red flag yet. Only your hand above the glare, where sea and sky had met. No red flag yet, but something in that sign made all the careless summer pause before it crossed the line. The boy turned back before you called. A gull cut hard and low. The sand slid warm around my shoes. The undertow pulled slow. You marked the hour in the book, then folded down the page, as if a life might pass through danger without learning its age. His father laughed and waved him in, too late to understand. You only watched the water once and brushed salt from your hand. I came to ask the closing time, or said that was my aim, but stayed beside the guard stand steps and could not leave the same. There are warnings never sounded. There are rescues no one names. A breath withheld, a glance made early, a hand that measures waves. And there are hearts that owe the day to something small and plain. Not thunder, not a shouted word, but care arriving sane. No red flag yet. No red flag yet. The folded cloth beside your chair had not been needed yet. No red flag yet. Still I see it clear, how close the bright world came to harm, how quietly you were near. The beach lamps woke along the walk. The last bell thinned away, and by the logbook, clean and red, the folded warning stayed.
By 7, all the stools were filled with caps, lunch pails, and thread. A seamstress with her cuff still pinned, 2 brothers smelling faintly of bread. You wrote the date up in the corner, turned and tucked one strand away, then sounded out the longest word as if it wished to stay. The radiator knocked below, a cart went rattling through the square, and every letter on the board looked calmer for your care. You never laughed at halted mouths or hands that gripped too tight. You only tapped the margin once and brought the sentence right. My pencil split, you crossed the room and lent your knife to me, then laid the shavings in your palm as neatly as could be. The lamp made islands on the desks, the window dull to cold. You said again so quietly, It seemed to steady all the chalk on your palm, the chalk on your palm, white as the proof a hard thing can grow mild. You carried all evening's broken sounds and never made one feel like a child. The chalk on your palm, the chalk on your palm, I watched it shine when you lowered your hand, and thought there are some who teach the tongue, and some who teach a man to stand. Years may leave their sums unpaid, their rent due sharp, their winters long, yet one clear word correctly kept can set a crooked day less wrong. And what you brushed from off the board did not quite vanish with the line. It stayed upon your sleeve and skin, a little patience made visible. The chalk on your palm, the chalk on your palm, the chalk on your palm. After the copybooks closed and the last chair slid, you gathered the stubs in a tobacco tin like bits of faith from what the evening did. The chalk on your palm, the chalk on your palm, no jewel could have seemed half so fine. For I went down the darkened stairs with half your brightness on my mind. The grocer barred his lower door, the hallway smelled of apples and coal, and on the rail where your hand had passed, one pale mark rode with me home. The hallway smelled of chalk and paste. The bell had just rung through, and in the nurse's little room, the basin held the blue. You stood beside the medicine shelf with cotton in your hand, a ledger open to the date, a chair too small to stand. The playground dust was on his knees, his pride was worse than skin. He kept his chin set hard and high to hold the crying in. He washed the thumb and turned it slow, not making much of pain, then blew the iodine dry before it stung again. A ruler tapped beyond the wall, the class began to add, and all at once that quiet room seemed kinder than it had. You tore the gauze in one clean strip, then folded it just twice, and said the bravest boys you knew still had to take advice. He watched you tie the little knot as if it were a prize, then looked at me and looked away with sunlight in his eyes. My errand there was nothing much, a note the teacher sent. I stood beside the open door and forgot the way I went. You wrote his name beneath the line, then gave his sleeve a brush, and sent him back with both hands whole inside the morning hush. The bandage on the thumb, white against the school day sun, was only meant to hold a hurt till arithmetic was done. The bandage on the thumb, I watched your fingers stay, and learned how softly care can speak when pride is in the way. No one would call it tenderness, a basin, gauze and chair, a boy who fell beside the swings, a nurse with pinned up hair. Yet some small mercies keep their place long after bells have gone. The hand that does not shame the wound, but helps the child move on. The bandage on the thumb, neat beneath his cuff of blue, held more than cotton, tape and thread, because it came from you. The bandage on the thumb, plain as any schoolroom thing, still shows me how a gentle hand can send the hurt back singing. The bell rang out for recess time, the hallway filled with feet, and in your book the morning stayed, recorded small and sweet.
Twilight leans upon the frames, the lamp is shaded low, a phonograph begins its waltz in accents soft and slow. You draw my chair a little back and hold your hand to mine. The velvet hush about the room feels faithful and benign. The embers breathe beside the grate, the rain speaks on the pane, and all the little things we own grow still to hear the strain. When the needle caught, you hummed the turn the room forgot, and love went on where music stopped. When the needle caught, your slipper finds the older mark, the rug remembers where we lost one winter to the snow, and found one spring in prayer. You smile and murmur, darling heart, so lightly with a sigh, as if the years were folded small and set somewhere nearby. The record slips, then hesitates. One note hangs in the air, a little starlight from the glass falls silver on your hair. No grand serenade filled the stair, no trumpet knew our name, but when the phonograph let go, you never missed the frame. You only sang the absent beat, so warm, so sure, so slight. And in that borrowed thread of tune, you kept the whole room right. When the needle caught, you hummed the turn the room forgot. And love went on where music stopped. When the needle caught, the record thins to whispered dust. The fire withdraws to rose. Still one soft measure lingers on, where only starlight knows. And long after the last note fades, and long after the rain has talked, my heart keeps time to that small hum from when the needle caught.
The shutters met the winter street, the bench lights stayed on low. One loop lay by the ledger line, one key beside the stove. You brought it in at 4:30, still warm from your thin wrist. The clasp had failed, the minute stopped at 6:15. You said it's only a little watch, and smiled as women do, as if a thing that held your day could matter less than you. So when the shop was closed and dim, and every footstep passed, I wound it once and set it near, to hear if it would last. No vow was anywhere in that, no word I thought to start. Just your small watch, and after hours, the tick in the dark. Beneath an upturned jelly glass, it beat the counter thin. Among the springs and velvet trays and tiny brass within, I ought to have gone up to bed and left the lamp to die. Yet every little while I looked to see the hands go by. I only meant to make it right for Tuesday when you'd call. But all at once that patient sound outlived the shop and all. Some men keep letters in a drawer, a flower dry and stark. I only kept one borrowed watch and listened through the dark. By morning it had missed no step, the hands moved clean and true. I polished out the thumbprint there, and wrapped it up for you. You said it's perfect now and smiled, then left before the spark. And all I had was one long night, the tick in the dark. The bench was bare by 10:30. The lamp had lost its gold. But sometimes when a room goes still and evening settles cold, I hear again that little watch take up its tender part, the sound of something not my own, still beating in the dark.
The exchange was lit by one desk lamp, the wall clock nearing 2, and rain along the tin roof seams kept tapping something through. You sat before the switchboard there, with pencils in a jar, the cotton cords in hanging rows, the town asleep and far. A doctor called from County Road. His voice came thin and crossed. A mother in the hospital had asked before she lost. Her son was somewhere west of Rome on work no train could mend. You marked the slip, then kept one jack reserved until the end. You let the other callers wait, then watch the small lights burn as if a life could hold its breath, until a voice returned. Hold the line clear, hold the line clear. Let no idle word come in where one boy must appear. Hold the line clear, no one in town would know how carefully you guarded space for love to travel slow. The night clerk asked for Bedford, Maine. A farmer tried the mill. The rain went hard against the roof, then softened on the sill. You answered each with quiet hands, then moved the cord aside, so nothing crossed that waiting place where distance had to ride. At 3, the overseas call came back, a crackle, then a name. You leaned close to the mouthpiece there and did not sound the same. Hold on, you said, and patched him through, your finger on the key. And all the room grew still enough to hear what could not be. You looked away before they spoke, but left the circuit true. The rain kept time for every word, that passed because of you. Hold the line clear, hold the line clear, till the miles grow small enough for one voice to come near. Hold the line clear, plain work beneath the light. Yet all of October leaned in close across that wire tonight. Some partings where no station smoke, no waving from a door. They wait inside a numbered room and ask the wires for more. And some hands know the mercy of doing less, not more, keeping the world from speaking until one voice comes ashore. Hold the line clear, hold the line clear, for the word that has to find the one who needs to hear. Hold the line clear, I saw your hand stay still, and learn that silence held with care can carry what words will. The cages woke before the street, their little wires rang, and April stood outside the glass while every yellow throat sang. You swept the seed husks from the shelf with one slow, careful hand, then filled the cup with millet grain and leveled off the sand. The rabbits slept in cedar shreds, the goldfish turned below. A boy pressed pennies to the pane and watched the finches go. You took one cage from near the light, not bright enough to stare, and tied a blue tag to its hook as if a name were there. Blue tag on the canary, small against the morning wire, told no song, and yet it seemed to steady all that choir. Blue tag on the canary, I watched your fingers stay, and felt a common errand turn almost holy for a day. You checked the latch and checked it twice, then moved the perch aside, so nothing sharp would catch a wing when carried on the ride. A woman came with shopping string, a schoolgirl chose a bowl. The bell above the doorway shook and let the sunlight roll. You said he startles if you rush, then lowered down your tone, and all at once that little cage looked less like being owned. No church stood near, no choir wore robes, no candle dressed the air, only sawdust, seed and glass, and someone taking care. is a small life leaves that ask the room to see. A hand that knows how light to hold, what trembles to be free. Blue tag on the canary, tied before the child came in. Bright as April's smallest flag beside the painted tin. Blue tag on the canary, not ribbon, prize, or claim. Only proof that even song was gently given a name. The child went out with both hands still. The bell swung once above, and in the shop one empty hook kept ringing after love. The dome was dark before the show. The seats held winter air, and on the desk beside the charts, the little stars lay bare. You stood beneath the lowered sky with chalk upon your sleeve. The brass plates stacked in careful piles, too still to quite believe. A row of coats along the rail gave November to the room. And somewhere in the lobby hall, a school bell lost its tune. The children waited 2 doors down, their mittens in a heap, their voices bright enough to wake the painted heavens from sleep. You checked the map, then stopped your hand and frowned, but only slight, for Orion's belt was missing one small borrowed point of white. You found it near the projector base, no bigger than a seed, a white pin fallen from the sky where no one else would heed. You lifted it between 2 nails, then climbed the narrow stair and set it in the velvet dark as if it answered there. A boy outside began to ask if Mars was truly red. The usher hushed the waiting line, the clock moved on ahead. You stepped back once to judge the place, not proud and not for show. And all at once that paper night had somewhere else to go. No one would know the sky had failed by such a little mark. The children would have watched the stars and never missed the dark. But there are hands that mend a world before the lights begin, and give the farthest things their names by putting small things in. Orion was missing only one pale spark, only one quiet point of care against a borrowed dark. Orion was missing. You set the heavens true and made a room of waiting eyes look up because of you. Orion was missing, then found beneath your hand, not moon, not vow, not golden flame, but something made to stand. When someone notices here. The lights went down, the children gasped, the dome began to glow, and in his belt one little star held all the dark in row. Before the breakfast trays came up, before the kettle stirred, the veranda boards held salt and dark, and one waking gull was heard. She opened both the ocean doors with wool across her arm. The wicker seats were cold with mist, the brass wheels slow to warm. A folded stack of gray lap rugs lay waiting by the wall, each with a patient's little tag, pinned careful, neat and small. She set the chairs in even line, then stopped beside the last. Its cane was split along one side, its footrest lowered fast. She turned it from the shadowed rail without a word or sound, until the empty waiting chair faced where the sun came round. A nurse went by with medicine, a tray cloth brushed her knee. The tide below the garden wall kept counting quietly. She tucked the blanket at the seat, then smoothed the corner flat, and placed a cushion near the back where one thin shoulder sat. The old man would be wheeled out soon, his paper in his hand, to read the same 3 headlines twice and watch the fishing land. She knew he never asked for much, nor said the light was dear. She only made the morning wait a little closer there. Some rooms begin before we come, some kindness starts unseen. A chair turns slightly toward the dawn, a rug laid soft and clean. Not every gift is handed out, not every mercy speaks. Some simply finds the proper angle for the light a body seeks. Face the chairs east, let the sea grow pale, let the first gold touch the hands that tremble on the rail. Face the chairs east, no one need explain how much a little brightness means after a season of rain. Face the chairs east while the house is still, before the cups, before the calls, before the morning chill. Face the chairs east, one careful turn no more, and they came in like tenderness across the painted floor. At 7, wheels crossed over boards. The old man took his place, and sunrise, finding where to go, arrived upon his face. The floorboards held the blue, a magnolia sighed below, where dawn was breaking through. The canvas waited pale and still. The jars were lined in gray. No phonograph, no footstep yet, only the edge of day. My silhouette beside the pane looked thinner than before, as if one breath of morning light could open every door. The blue before color kept all the little room in grace, and laid a hush on every place. The blue before color. A teardrop trembled near my hand, then vanished in the shine. The rag, the brush, the wooden chair, all seemed almost divine. The rooftops softened into gold, the shadows thinned away, and one small jar upon the sill began to catch the day. A reverie moved through the room, so quiet, warm and slow. The starlight left the window glass to let the morning grow. No serenade came through the street, no great command was heard, only the light on common things and one awakening bird. And then I knew how beauty starts, not with a blaze or cry, but with a little tender change in air and wood and sky. The blue before color kept all the little room in grace, and laid a hush on every place. The blue before color. At last I raised the waiting brush, the white began to flower. Still in my heart there softly stayed that blue and fragile hour.
The optician's bell had hardly rung, the streetcars thinned toward 5, and dust along the counter glass kept little suns alive. He stood beneath the eye chart there, with lenses in a tray, the trial frames beside his hand, the afternoon gone gray. A schoolboy chose a tortoise pair, a clerk wrapped cases brown, and May leaned through the striped front shade upon the quiet town. She came in with her sewing bag, her thimble in one seam. She said the needle looked too small and tried to make it seem a thing that happens now and then, a nuisance, nothing more. But both her hands held tight around the handle at the door. He set the little silver frame across her careful face, then turned the dial lens by lens with unannouncing grace. The black marks blurred, then cleared, then blurred. She laughed and looked away, as if the room had caught her age too plainly in the day. He did not say the years had come, or ask how long she'd known. He only took the pointer down and lowered what was shown. One line larger softly said, "Then we shall find the right." And all the shop grew kinder there around her borrowed sight. Some pride is made of tiny things, a thread passed through the eye, a name read on a medicine box, a bus sign going by. And some men know the merciful can live in where they stand, not changing what the truth has said, but placing it near hand. One line larger, let the letters stay. Let the world come close enough to meet her halfway. One line larger, plain black upon the white, yet something in her lifted chin returned into the light. One line larger, till the blur gives way, till the smallest useful things come back into the day. One line larger, no comfort spoken through, only a careful chart brought down where failing eyes could do. At closing time the case is shut, the pointer found its wall, and in the glass one lowered line still answered for us all.
The town had shut its porches down. The courthouse gave one chime, and in the little exchange room the cords hung still as twine. She sat before the switchboard wall with cotton at her wrist, a pencil by the message pad, her coffee gone to mist. The moths kept tapping at the shade, the fan turned slow and wide, and every sleeping house outside had wires at its side. Then one red lamp began to wink above the doctor's name. She lifted up the answering cord before the second flame. A woman's voice came thin with fear from 4 miles past the mill, and all the room around the board grew suddenly more still. Hold the line, hold the line. Nothing more than waiting there between one voice and time. Hold the line, small duty plain and true. Yet in her hands the darkened town had one way through. The doctor's bell rang twice, then 3, then stopped beneath the floor. She tried his sister's boarding room, then tried the back drugstore. No panic crossed her steady face, no word was spent too fast. She only looped the cloth-bound cord and made the silence last. The farmhouse breathed against her ear. A child coughed once, then cried. She said, "He's coming, keep the lamp," and set the jack beside. Outside the gravel road lay black, the moon was nearly gone, but still she kept that little light from being left alone. No one would see the way she sat with one hand near the board, or how a common copper thread could carry mercy toward. Some rooms are small enough to miss, some work leaves little sign, but life may hang for half a breath on who will hold the line. Hold the line, hold the line, till wheels are heard beyond the bridge, till fear has crossed its time. Hold the line, not bell nor hymn nor flame, only a woman keeping still beside a blinking name. At dawn the doctor called her back. The child had found his sleep. She wrote one note, then cleared the cord and let the morning keep. The folding chairs are set in rows, the soup is keeping warm, and under stairs the basement pipes begin their little storm. You stand beside the kitchen shelf with steam along your sleeve, a pencil tucked behind your ear, too busy to believe. The enamel pans pans are cooling down, the ladles hang in pairs. A stack of plates waits near the door for whoever takes the stairs. You taste the broth and lower salt, then stir it once again, as if the whole cold neighborhood were coming in from rain. The boys bring chairs from Sunday school, the old men move them back. A woman folds the tablecloth along its printed crack. You open up the recipe box and find the card you need, written small in someone's hand for cabbage, cream and seed. You read the corner where it fades, then smile and close your eyes, and set the card back where it lives, among the cakes and pies. The card in the recipe box, soft at the edge from years of hands, told more than any silver dish of what a room understands. The card in the recipe box, not merely how much flour to take, but how to feed a winter hour and leave no one awake to ache. No one will praise the pencil mark, the thumbprint near the name, the little cross beside the word that says to lower flame. Yet every supper has a past that stands behind the steam. Somebody's measure, somebody's care, still entering the dream. The card in the recipe box, placed back between the bread and stew, held all the quiet hands before that somehow worked through you. The card in the recipe box, plain as paper, worn and small, yet when you close the wooden lid, it seemed to bless us all. The supper bell is rung upstairs, the basement fills with feet, and in the box the old card rests, still warm from behind.